Carl Sagan would have been 90 this month. A scientist who worked on many NASA space missions from Viking to Voyager, Sagan is probably best known for his much-loved 1970s television series Cosmos, which broke new ground in communicating science to a mass audience. Join us as we look at the life, work and legacy of this amazing man. Tonight we remember Carl Sagan. Well, good evening viewers, thank you for joining us on this Tuesday evening. Yes indeed, so tonight is a bit of a special because last Saturday Carl Sagan would have been 90 years old. So we could not let this go unmarked, and I think I speak for all of us here when I say that we all have admiration for the life and work of Carl Sagan, and he is obviously very much missed, and I'm sure he will actually never be forgotten as long as people care about science. So tonight we're going to bring you a bit of a special a little later. We're going to look at the life, work and legacy of Carl Sagan, and I hope you enjoy it. So thank you for being here. It's a cold Tuesday evening here in Spain. It's gone down to 12 degrees. We haven't had that sort of temperature since about last February. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, have some sympathy though, because we're so used to walking about in jeans and t-shirts, and it's suddenly gone very cold and grey, and there's heavy rain forecast for tomorrow. So winter's come a bit early. Anyway, you don't know all that stuff. You want to know who's here tonight, and I can tell you with a great deal of pleasure and honour that we have Roger. How are you, Roger?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Pete's here. Pete's in the house.
I'm in the house, back from the European Space Agency, and I'm here.
Did you have a good time?
I had a good time, an interesting conference, and yeah, all went very well.
Good. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Well, welcome back, Pete. We've missed you. It says here. So, then we have Daz.
Hi everyone.
Daz, are you fully recovered from your lurgy now?
Near as damn it. Yeah. I'm just upset that you've got to get your big coat out. I'm really so upset about that. Put a vest on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, look at me sat here in a bloody padded.
And we're delighted to welcome Ian.
Speak up.
How are you, Ian?
Hello. Hi, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, great.
Great,
Yeah,
good to see you. And Lou, who we're very lucky this evening. Lou doesn't have to dash off and teach halfway through the programme, so he's with us for the duration. So I hope you're well, Lou.
I'm doing well. I don't quite understand that Monday classes were cancelled, so they moved the Monday classes to Tuesday and canceled Tuesday. This makes no sense. But here we are.
What does in this world these days, eh? What does? And lastly, we welcome Michael and friend. Oh, your friend's gone.
Yeah, that's Apollo just gone, sorry.
How are you, Michael?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah.
Recovering from a roast pork dinner.
You're looking very well, Michael. Considering that just a few years ago, you look like this.
No.
Goodness.
Yes, this was younger Michael. At that time he did enter the Fred West lookalike contest, but he only came second, unfortunately. So there we are. So that's young Michael.
Andy, can I just tell the viewers that was 1995?
Yeah, you're killing years.
Yeah.
Yeah. The years when you brandished a shovel like no other.
You want a patio?
Yeah, when are you patio? Anyway, enough of this merriment.
Yeah.
So, what else have we got lined up for you this evening? Well, we've got our normal features. I'll be giving you the news very shortly before we go on to our special on Carl Sagan. Roger will entertain and educate and enlighten us with what's on in the night sky. Do we have a big viewers gallery this week, Roger?
We have a very well sized gallery this week.
Brilliant.
Always good to hear.
Yeah.
Always good to hear, yes.
So thank you, viewers, for sending in your images to us every week. May I just remind you there's a new email address to send your images to. And let's just put that in the chat for you. So the address to send your images to, those of you that would like to, is very simple. It's gallery@spaceoddities.space. There we are. That's in the chat now. So please send your images to gallery@spaceoddities.space. 1 image per email, please, and we will show them on the show. And because of this new email address, you no longer need to put the word gallery in the subject of your email, although you can, of course. So it'll make it easier. But anyway, so there we are. Okay. Are we having some technical problems? Anne says there's a bit of distortion on the sound.
Just going to check.
Right,
Good on my end.
I can't hear anything.
That's okay, you.
Yeah.
No, everything seems okay on my end on the YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's about time we got rid of that 1940s television, to be honest. So
I think at the beginning somebody was looping the thing with YouTube and versus restream.
Loopings?
oh, well,
Yeah.
we'll proceed then.
It's not that's not there anymore anyway, so it's fine.
Okay. All right then.
That just reminds me of Monty Python. Hand over all the loopings you've got.
Loopings, yeah.
Looping for your life.
Okay, before we go any further, let's just do the normal housekeeping things. So don't forget, we still have the Space Oddities merchandise available at the Space Oddities shop. You can scan the QR code here. I'm sorry to report that the technical problem where a link to that does not appear in the chat is still being worked on. But in the meantime, you can scan the code. And we have T-shirts at £25, including UK postage and packing, and hoodies at £40, including UK postage and packing, for your delectation and delight. And now is the time to get your summer T-shirts in for next year. And get your winter hoodies. So there you are. So that's the shop. What else do I need to say? I think that's about it for the moment. And we'll go straight on now with the news. So just give me 1 second to sort myself out here. And a few items in the news this week. And let me just go over to it. Okay, hope everybody can see this. Now, the first item, I found this quite amusing in a strange sort of way. I don't know if anybody knows what this story is about. That's a British satellite.
Is it aerial?
No, it's
not aerial.
The makers of Terminator got the idea from this. It's called Skynet.
Skynet, yes. Of course.
Skynet 1, to be exact.
Yeah.
Anybody like to guess what year it was launched?
Oh.
It was quite back in the 70s, wasn't it? Say 60s, 70s?
1969.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was launched in a geosynchronous orbit over East Africa to provide communication to British forces in Africa. Okay, so far so good. And in fact, that's the area that it hovers over, if you like. Or rather, it did. Because now, if you look on the left, look where it is now.
Yeah.
Now, this is a mystery. Because how did it get there? How did it move half a world away? And the idea behind this, if its thrusters had failed and it couldn't maintain its orbit, it would have fallen into what's called a gravity sink, and it wouldn't be too far from its current position. So what experts are saying is somebody in the 1970s fired the thrusters of this satellite to move it to its new location. But nobody knows who did it or why. So it's a bit of a mystery. If anybody out there has any theories about that or knows something we don't, put it in the chat. But this British satellite has mysteriously moved, and nobody knows why. So there we are. Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
It could be
Very
aliens.
strange. Yeah, very strange. Because we are now actually on Skynet. I think it's version 7, so we're still using Skynet.
Yeah, this was number 1. Skynet.
Yeah.
All right.
So there we are. Strange. I just like mention that. I like a bit of a space mystery. And
Aliens.
aliens. Yeah.
Aliens. Oh.
Oh dear. We've got aliens in the house.
Alien.
That wasn't mine.
No, that's mine. That's mine. That's
Wasn't mine
Angel
either.
Fire trying to communicate.
Okay.
I've got two of them here, and they're both fast asleep.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. Arecibo. Who remembers?
Oh, we remember it well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think I will
Oh,
shock you
dear.
when I tell you that it was 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Shocking, isn't it? So this was the massive radio telescope in Puerto Rico that was also featured in a James Bond film, you may remember.
Yeah, in Contact.
Was it In Contact?
Yeah, it's in Contact.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, must rewatch that. I haven't watched it for a long time. They finally pieced together exactly what caused the collapse. And it was a combination of unfortunate things and avoidable things. So the unfortunate thing was Hurricane Irene, which had weakened the whole wire cable structure that supports or supported the central receiver. And also they've identified a phenomenon that it suffered from known as zinc creep, which is a progressive metal defect in the anchors of the cable where they go into these big steel anchor blocks. They were slowly being corroded by this metallurgical phenomenon known as zinc creep. But the whole thing is that the company who were maintaining it had been warned about this possible problem, and guess what? They'd done absolutely nothing about it. So again, human error. The National Science Foundation, who looked after it, they were planning to demolish it anyway, but it didn't. I didn't expect it to come down so quickly. How quickly did it come down?
Oops.
Yikes.
So that really was a disaster, but at least they now know exactly what caused it. Moving to the outside the solar system, I'm happy to say, Voyager 1 has had more problems. Voyager 1 is back online after problems it suffered in the middle of October. And what actually happened was that they sent it a routine command and it didn't respond. They didn't get anything back from Voyager. And after 3 days, they commanded Voyager to switch to a backup radio transmitter. And Voyager responded and said, okay, done. But unbelievably, that backup radio transmitter had not been used since 1981. And it came back online immediately. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Really amazing.
It's just, that's 14 years.
That's real value for your tax dollar. That's
Yeah,
what
I think that's a
14 years
testament.
that transmitter has sat there doing nothing. And then when it was commanded to wake up and do something, it did. So unbelievable technology.
It is a testament to the technology.
Yeah, it certainly is. But it's more a testament to the engineers who designed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, does anybody know? Here's something you might know. How many billion miles away is Voyager 1 at the moment?
Lots.
million miles.
Millions and millions and millions.
Millions of
14?
millions.
How many?
14 is my guess.
Wow, very good. It's 15.4. You were very close. 15.4. And obviously, engineers are trying to understand what caused the failure of the transmitter and to rectify the problem. But they, as we know, the Voyagers, or especially Voyager 1, has had a long history over the last year or so, several incidents where things are starting to fail. But these people are brilliant, and they've always managed to get it up and running again. So let's hope that they can find out what the problem is. The problem with using the backup transmitter is that it transmits at a slightly different frequency at less power. So they don't want that situation to go on for very long, in case they have trouble getting the signal back. So they're desperately trying, obviously, to get the primary transmitter back online. So we'll see what happens. But at the moment, Voyager 1 is working and it's fine. So that's
I suppose as long as you like 80s music. 'Cause that's all
Yeah.
transmitting.
Oh. Oh. Okay, moving on. Very sad. We have to say farewell to Reaction Engines Limited.
That's a shame. That's a big
I
shame.
know, it's a shame. So let me just tell you about Reaction Engines Limited. British company, founded by the guy who designed Hotol in the 1980s, if you remember that. This revolutionary space plane Hotol that the British government were going to invest in, and then, what a surprise, decided to pull out. Reaction Engines Limited have developed a revolutionary engine called Sabre, and the technology behind Sabre means that they were thinking of designing a vehicle like the one in the photo, obviously an artist's impression, that can take off like a jet using a jet engine, get up to an altitude, and the engine changes basically to a rocket engine and accelerates it to Mach 15 or something crazy. It's revolutionary technology. However, Reaction Engines Limited have had real problems over the last couple of years attracting more funding for its development, and that has failed. So unfortunately, it's gone into administration. They haven't been able to find a backer. They've laid off 173 of the company's 208 staff, and it's basically the company's over. But the technology of the Sabre engine is this, and nothing like this has ever been built before, and it works. And they have had in the past investment from the European Space Agency. The British government have invested, but they haven't invested enough to necessary research to carry the project on, which is very sad. I particularly remember Reaction Engines Limited because they came up with some artist's impressions of a space plane that uses the Sabre engine, and the space plane was called Skylon.
Skylon.
Yeah, Skylon.
It was the sexiest thing on legs.
Yeah.
As you can see.
Yeah.
I mean, this was pure Thunderbirds, and but then it turned out actually that they weren't actually ever going to build Skylon. They were only going to design and build the actual engines and hope that another company actually put them into a vehicle like this, which could have been used for putting satellites into orbit and all sorts of things. But my God, that's a sexy design. So farewell, Reaction Engines, and thank you for everything you did. So there we are. So that's the news for this week. Just a couple of other things I do want to mention though, and that is there's been a bit of concern recently about the health of a couple of astronauts. Firstly, an astronaut on the returning Crew 8 from the International Space Station was hospitalized after they splashed down with an unspecified ailment that NASA point blank refused to talk about, citing medical privacy. Who's whistling?
That's eerie music for
Oh,
unspecified disease.
Right. Oh, who's just gone? Somebody's gone.
It's Michael.
Pete.
Oh,
Michael. Oh, Pete. Sorry.
Upset Pete. Yeah. It's very unusual for NASA that they've been so tight-lipped about ailments suffered by astronauts. They've never been in the past. There's been full disclosure about what the problems were. So that was a bit strange. However, the astronaut did only spend one night in hospital. Apparently, he's back to work. So let's wish that the astronaut all the best. Secondly, there's also been concern about the ailing health of Sunita Williams on the International Space Station. Now, you may remember that Sunita Williams is one of the astronauts who was expecting to stay on the space station for 10 days and is basically going to be up there for nearly 10 months. You've probably seen the stories in the press, astronauts stranded, marooned on the International Space Station. There's been concern in the media about her health because she is looking incredibly, if I might say so, gaunt and haggard. She's lost a lot of weight. And the first thing to say is that, yes, it's the media. Second thing is NASA are monitoring the health of those astronauts constantly. And they say, look, there's no problem. Apparently, Sunita has been unable to keep up with the high protein diet that the astronauts must take to avoid muscle loss and everything else. We don't know why she hasn't been able to do that, but it has been stated she's been unable to keep up with the high protein diet. But she does look really ill. And of course, she's got to wait till February to come back to Earth. So we wish her all the best, obviously. And if any developments, we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, on that note, Andy, I'll see there's a lot of clickbait at the moment on YouTube.
Oh, what a surprise.
Saying that a rescue mission to bring Suni back because she's ill, but it's all clickbait. It's what they're talking about is the mission that was launched a month or so ago, taking up the 2 astronauts, the Crew 9. But there's a lot of there's a lot of clickbait on there, so don't be taken in by the stories that she's in any peril or anything like that. It's all clickbait, so just be careful what you want.
Yeah, there's no rescue mission.
No.
There is a mission going up in February to bring them back, but that was always going to happen. It was planned. It's a crew rotation, and they were going to come back on the Dragon in February. So please don't be taken in by all the impossible amounts of clickbait on YouTube. One thing you can rely with us is we will never put clickbait in titles because we have more respect for you as viewers, and we would never do that. We never lie to you or tell you anything that isn't true. So you can rely on us for that.
And also with the news items, there's 2 of them that relate to our story later on.
Yes, indeed. So, speaking of which, let's now move on with the main feature tonight. As I said at the top of the show, last Saturday would have been the 90th birthday of the much-loved scientist Carl Sagan, who unfortunately died far too early of a rare type of cancer. And his legacy will live on forever. And I think I speak to us all when I say that we all have immense love and respect for Carl Sagan. So what we'll do first is I'm going to let the man speak himself. And this is his famous speech about the pale blue dot. This video comes courtesy of carlsagan.com, the YouTube channel, and that's carlsagan.dot.com, not a full stop. Let's let Carl Sagan speak himself.
From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on the mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Absolutely powerful stuff.
Wow.
Want to say anything about that?
Well, to be quite honest, I think that's a speech that should be played before and at the end of every meeting where there's a world leader, where there's anything to do with global climate change or anything like that, because it puts everything in perspective. I mean, it's one of the things they say: when you view the Earth from space, there are no borders.
No.
So yeah, it really needs to. The emphasis of it is absolutely. It just says everything, to be quite honest. That's what I think. Anyone else?
I remember seeing him in 1977 and come out of the conference that he did, and just your mind was just elsewhere, and you just suddenly realise how insignificant we are.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be played at the COP24, shouldn't it?
Yeah. Anywhere like that.
Amazing that.
It should be played to every school child as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played
Every
the Donald
child needs to hear this. Yeah. Yes, unfortunately, it's not. And I don't know about you, but Carl Sagan had a wonderfully lyrical way of writing. It wasn't just facts; it was just the way that he put the sentences together was art. He had a way of talking and communicating that no other science communicator since, in my opinion, has done in the same way. He was unique in that respect. He did have a wonderfully lyrical way of expressing ideas. So there we are. Lou, what are your thoughts?
Well, of course, Carl Sagan was a scientist, a planetary scientist at Cornell, and did some wonderful research in the field of planetary science and astrobiology. He was also a visionary and a humanist and a skeptic. Skeptic in terms of encouraging others to think critically about the world. And he made a number of interesting predictions about what would happen if power goes awry on our small blue planet. Perhaps we're seeing some evidence of some of that these days. But he was extraordinary. He had so many talents, and as you mentioned, he was author of a number of books, not only on planetary science but on critical thinking, and he was amazing.
Yes, he was, and he was extremely prophetic in lots of different subjects. Absolutely amazing. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of that a little later when we look at Carl Sagan's legacy. But for now, we're going to give you a little bit of information about the life and work of Carl Sagan, if Daz is ready.
I am. Did you want to say something, Ian, or
Later.
oh,
Right.
later? Okay, then,
I'll
mate.
ask
That's
you.
fine. No, that's fine. No, I thought you were gonna add a comment there. That's all. Sorry. No.
Oh, no.
Okay then. Yeah. Right. Right. As we said, we're here to. Can you? Oh no, you won't see me cursor. Sorry. Let me just.
Yeah, we do.
Boop. Right. Here we are. Okay then. So as Andy's, as we've already seen, everybody remembers Carl Sagan for some reason or other, and most people, when you talk about Carl Sagan, they immediately think of the Cosmos, the program that he produced and narrated himself, and that's which brought the universe, and as Lou said, critical thinking, scientific method. And everything in an easy, explained manner, calmly, and he brought it to the masses, which did get him in trouble with some of his contemporaries. So, of course, we all know Carl for, as I said, the cosmos, and think quotes like, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way of the universe to know itself." Which, when you think about it and start to analyze that, is true. It's absolutely true. So, yeah, it's quotes like that that really bring him to the fore. So Carl Sagan was born in Brooklyn, New York, on the 9th of November 1937, and he was the eldest of two children. His mother was Rachel Molly Gruber, who was a housewife from New York. His father was Samuel Sagan, who was a Ukrainian-born garment worker who emigrated from Russia at the time. So I've lost my cursor. Carl was captivated by the universe from a young age, and he loved science fiction and astronomy books. In 1939, age 4, he can always remember his father taking him to the New York World's Fair, where he can relate, where he often relates the wonders of and visions of the future that he saw there, and they always stuck with him. Carl was always inquisitive. He was always asking probing questions. And even though his parents were not scientists themselves, they encouraged his inquisitiveness and for him to always keep questioning. So when he was at school, he was a gifted child. And then while he was at high school, he was a grade A student. But the problem is that he was far more advanced in his thinkings and his education. So he was bored, and basically his teachers did not inspire him. His teachers realized this and tried to convince his parents to send him to a private school. But of course, his parents couldn't afford to do so. They weren't a rich family at all. So before the end of high school, he entered an essay writing contest in which he explored the idea that human contact with advanced life forms from another planet might be disastrous for people on Earth, as Native Americans' first contact with the Europeans. Yeah, he was already thinking along the lines of that there was life out in the universe, and that possibly contact could be, disastrous for us. But the subject was a bit controversial, but he won over the judges, and he actually won first prize. When he attended the University of Chicago, he was learning about the degrees in physics, astronomy, and astrophysics. And his doctoral thesis, sorry, I've just got to hide, there's a thing in the file, was focused on the possibility of life on other planets. During the summer, he used to work for with planetary scientist Gerard Kuiper, who was his dissertation director, and also George Gamow and chemist Melvin Calvin. So he's already working with some of the best. He earned a bachelor's degree in physics in 1955. Well, that was followed by a master's degree a year later. In 1958, Sagan and Kuiper worked on a classified military project, a study of lunar research flights, aka it's also known as Project A119. And basically, it was a plan to detonate a nuclear bomb on the surface of the moon. Sagan had top clearance for the military and also for NASA. But it became apparent that later that he had actually breached his national security when he mentioned this research in a thesis that he was writing. So he did commit actually a security leak. And then he continued his studies and gained a PhD in astronomy and astrophysics in 1960. God, I can't see me. Here's this one white. His early career, planetary science. He worked as a research fellow at the University of California, Berkeley, and he joined the faculty at Harvard University in 1962. He conducted research on planetary atmospheres, particularly those of Venus and Jupiter. Sagan's research on Venus helped to reveal its inhospitable environment, characterized by extreme temperatures, Prussian atmospheric pressure, and toxic gases. He was also with his colleagues, who they were studying Jupiter, were the first to actually mote that the idea that the Great Red Spot on Jupiter was actually a giant vortex, an actual storm in the clouds of Jupiter. He's a pioneer of exobiology, and a possibility that which studies the possibility of life on other planets. He conducted research on the potential of microbial life on Mars, and explored the concept of panspermia. That's the idea where life has been transmitted through the universe and through the solar system on comets and meteorites, and they've landed on Earth, and hence life blossomed on Earth. Now, Carl was also, here we are, this is what the Arecibo Observatory looked like before the tragic ending that Andy showed us earlier. Sagan's work also extended to radio astronomy. He was involved in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, and helped to develop the Arecibo message, which we'll talk a little bit back later on, which was sent out into space in 1974. It was actually directed towards M13, Messier 13, which is the Great Globular Cluster in Hercules. It's going to take about 25,000 years to get there. And if they send a message back, then it's going to be another 25,000 years before we get it back. But of course, the receiver has now disappeared, so they'll just get a dead tone. So he also he was, as well as being at the instigation or the beginning of the modern SETI work, he was also at the beginnings of NASA, where he worked on the Mariner, Viking, Pioneer, Voyager, and Galileo missions to other worlds. He along with Frank Drake, again of SETI fame, he collaborated with him to produce a plaque that was actually placed on Pioneers 10 and 11, which were actually going to be sent out or are being sent out into the out of the solar system, with basically a message of indicating of where we are. And that we actually existed. It's like a message in a bottle. He did Mariner 2. Sagan was involved in Mariner 2, a mission to Venus, where he helped design experiments to study planets, atmospheres, and the surface conditions. His research contributed to the understanding of Venus's extreme greenhouse effect. The Voyager missions, again, along with Frank Drake and others, he helped design and develop the Golden Record, which is pinned to the side of these vehicles, that so that if they do encounter um, extraterrestrial life, that they will actually inform them that we actually exist. Again, it was a record. On one side, it's the voices, all hundreds of voices welcome him, saying that we are welcome from the planet, from the people of planet Earth. Sorry, in all different languages. And there's several other things on there. Again, telling the any prospective aliens where we actually existed. Again, Viking missions. He played a crucial role in the Viking missions to Mars, serving as principal investigator for experiments designed to search for evidence of life on the red planet. It didn't find life, but it did provide valuable data about Mars's environment. Sorry, to keep losing my cursor. Sorry. And of course, he was a contributor to the Galileo missions to Jupiter, helping to design experiments to study the planet's atmosphere. And of course, Galileo was two parts. One was a probe that actually went into the atmosphere, dived into the atmosphere of Jupiter, and also it was an orbiter which gave us beautiful images, and I don't think anybody can forget the images we first saw from there. So there you go. He was also instrumental in the Apollo missions. Being a renowned astronomer and a science communicator, he actually spoke to all the Apollo astronauts who were traveling to the moon, basically giving them a complex understanding of the science that they will be doing, the geology, but also he did talk to them about the psychological effect of them being out into space and actually viewing the Earth from another planet. So yes, as I said, he briefed the Apollo astronauts on the moon's geology. Now the atmosphere, we know people say it hasn't got an atmosphere, but the atmosphere on the moon was actually discovered by Apollo 11, so on the first mission. So he spoke to the other astronauts that followed on about the atmosphere and also potential hazards. His goal was to equip the astronauts with the knowledge necessary to make informed observations and collect valuable data. And also, when they brought the samples back, he was instrumental in the study of them. And of course, this is a later one because you've got the actual lunar buggy on this one. So yeah, he designed the experiments to analyze the moon's atmosphere, the surface competition, and search for signs of life. And upon the return, Sagan and his team analyzed the lunar samples they had collected, and they added immensely to our understanding of the solar system's early evolution. Here's another quote from Carl Sagan. "Even though your hardest days, remember we're all made of stardust." And this is one of the main themes of Carl Sagan's talks and things like that. We are actually connected to the universe. Everything that is inside us that goes to make us up was made in stars. So we are part of the universe. He became a public speaker and a science communicator. He was passionate advocate for scientific inquiry and critical thinking. He fought against pseudoscience and misinformation, promoting the importance of evidence-based reasoning and scientific literacy. His work helped to advance the understanding of the solar system and inspired future generations of scientists and fostered a sense of wonder about the universe. His legacy continues today. Of course, as already mentioned at the beginning, probably everybody remembers the 1980s series, The Cosmos. It was actually called The Cosmos: A Personal Voyage. Sagan narrated it himself. There were 13 episodes in the series. which was aired in 1980. And it reached at least 500 million people in 60 countries. And basically introduced millions of viewers to the wonders of the universe. I can always remember watching it. I'd always make sure I was there watching every episode. Another quote: "The universe seems neither benign or hostile, merely indifferent." That's understandable. Again, as we said, Carl Sagan was involved with the Voyager missions, and he was instrumental in getting NASA to turn Voyager 1 round just as it was about to leave the solar system and take one final look at the Earth as it departed. He believed the image would offer a profound perspective on humanity's place in the cosmos. And again, if you look at this, it says, look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. Sends shivers down my spine every time I see something.
I remember seeing, God, and I can't remember her name, I must be getting old, a lady worked for NASA who recalls the day that somebody brought that photograph in to show her and said, look at this image of the Earth. And she put it on her desk, and she said there was a speck of dust on the photo, and I rubbed the photo to get rid of it until I realized it wasn't a speck of dust, it was the actual image of the Earth.
That's
Absolutely.
right. It was just one pixel.
Tiny pixel. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, I think it had a profound effect on a lot of people, because not only did they do the Earth, but they also did a whole family portrait of all the planets.
That's right.
And if you go online, you can find them. And of course, he wrote the book, The Pale Blue Dot: A Vision of the Human Future in Space. It became a bestseller, and you'll find the if you want to call it a poem, or the passage we've just read back in there. So, as I said, it's just the reflections on the image were profound and moving. He emphasized the interconnectedness of all life on Earth, the fragility of our planet, and the importance of preserving it for future generations. Oh, where's my cursor gone there?
And NASA really didn't want to take that photo because there was no scientific value in it.
Yeah.
And it was Sagan, as you said, who pushed for that photo to be taken.
Yeah. Yeah, of course it was. He had to, fight tooth and nail to get them to do it.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the best things that ever happened in the history of astronomy, as far as I'm concerned. It's just one of those things that, as I said, just every time I hear the pale blue dot passage, it just gives me goosebumps and sends shivers down my spine. Carl also wrote several other popular books, including The Dragons of Eden, Brocker's Brain, and of course Contact, which was made into a film. Now, as Lou said, the books are basically, they're thought experiments, and they're basically just logic all the way through, simply produced. As Andy said, when he talks, he's got that voice. It's always low. It's never rushed. It's never hurried. He's always respectful of his audience, and especially when he talks about things like religion and things like that. Sagan was a passionate advocate for the scientific inquiry and critical thinking. He spoke out against pseudoscience, as we said before, superstition, and dogmatic beliefs. He also championed the importance of scientific literacy and education. Now, at the bottom here, on the in the right-hand corner, there's one of my most favourite quotes. I hope you can read it. It says, "In order to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first create the universe." Again, going back to this idea that everything that is made on this earth is from the planet, is from the dead stars. We are connected. He was a vocal advocate for nuclear disarmament. Oh, here we go. I got to get my teeth in. He and his colleagues developed the nuclear winter hypothesis, which pointed that a nuclear war would lead to global cooling event due to smoke and soot blocking the sunlight. And of course, this was all around the time of the Cold War. And of course, you had the phrase like MAD, mutual, was it mutual
Assured.
destruction or something, right? Yeah. Yes, it mutually assured destruction. Thank you for that, Lou. Yeah, so you had the terms like MAD. I do apologize for this delay. I just keep losing my key. Of course, again, as I said earlier, Carl was very much for looking for extraterrestrial life, and he actually was one of the former he was there at the beginning of the modern SETI and the search for extraterrestrial life. So he was big on using radio telescopes in the search. His work helped to popularize the idea of searching for life beyond Earth and inspired countless of people to explore the cosmos. He believed that the search for other civilizations was a noble endeavor that would help humanity understand its place in the universe. Again, another quote: "The universe is a pretty big place. If it's just us, seems like an awful waste of space."
Indeed.
True. So his work also on planetary atmospheres and potential for life on other planets laid the groundwork for the discovery of exoplanets. He helped to develop techniques for detecting and characterizing planets orbiting other stars. So his actual science work was covering so many different disciplines. And of course, when you talk about extraterrestrial life, you've just got to think that every star may be a sun to somebody. So, of course, I mean, every star could host some sort of life or someone.
Yes, indeed.
His personal life, he was married 3 times, so obviously he liked cake. And he's had several children. Some of them were adopted. And he was quite a big family man. But and here you can see a picture of Carl with his family, or with his children, who have all gone on to be quite eminent in their own ways. His key contributions to science: he proposed that Venus' atmosphere is composed primarily of carbon dioxide, helped develop the idea that Jupiter's great red spot was a giant storm, contributed to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence through the SETI program, championed the idea of panspermia, the hypothesis that life may have originated elsewhere in the universe and been transported to Earth. He was also, this wasn't known during his actual lifetime. Carl Sagan was a great advocate for legalizing marijuana and cannabis. He was he was known to smoke cannabis himself, and he said the legality of cannabis is outrageous, and impediments to full utilization of a drug which helps produce the serenity and insight, sensitivity and fellowship so desperately needed in this increasingly mad and dangerous world.
Fair enough.
He did write a paper as regards the use of marijuana, but because it was sort of like frowned upon at the time, and of course, people like NASA and the MOD at the time would have frowned upon it, and he would have lost his job. He actually produced his paper, and he signed it as Professor X. And it wasn't until after his death that it was actually released that it was actually Carl Sagan who wrote it. So who wrote it? So there you go. Unfortunately, after a courageous battle with myelodysplasia, a rare bone marrow disorder, Sagan passed away on the 20th of December 1996 at the age of 62. His legacy lives on through his work and the countless individuals who have been inspired by his passion for science and exploration. and this is his gravestone. It's quite modest actually for somebody who
it is,
was so
yeah.
great to many people. So one last quote about death. He said, "Personally, I would be delighted if there were life after death, especially if it permitted me to continue to learn about this world and others, if it gave me a chance to discover how history turns out." So that was the famous Carl Sagan. I think everybody appreciates the type of man he was. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Daz. That was great, and it just makes you realise how much we've lost, really,
Yeah.
in Carl Sagan, and very nice, Daz. Very nice indeed. Okay.
Let me just get rid of this for you, then
Yeah,
we can have a
please.
chat. There we go.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they want to say about that? Any thoughts?
Well, as you said, he was very prophetic in some of the things he said. I don't know if I mean I've been talking now, so I've had a thing, but I did come across one quote which I was just looking through the paperwork. It's quite a long quote, but it's very prophetic in basically for today. If I can just read it to you. And it's about science and things that are. You'll probably see why I'm reading this with thick current affairs that are happening in the world today. It says science is more than a body of knowledge; it is a way of thinking. I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the key manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technology powers are in the hands of very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues. When the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably questioning those in authority, when clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide almost without noticing back into superstition and darkness. And
Wow.
I think we can all appreciate what he's actually
Yes,
saying
and
there.
I've got another quote touching on the same problems a little later. So we'll come back to that theme a little later. Right. Okay. Thank you for that, Daz. We're now going to move over to Ian. Ian, what are you going to tell us about?
I'm going to talk about the Sagan paradox.
The Sagan paradox, right, okay.
I'll share my screen. Screen share. Window. This one, that one. Share. Is that there? Can you see that okay?
Just putting it up now. There you go.
Yep.
And you can hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Excellent. Right. So, as you've heard, Sagan did believe, I think, in extraterrestrial life forms, certainly, and probably extraterrestrial intelligence, because obviously he was involved with SETI, he was involved with putting all those plates on the various craft that went up. So, he had no doubt about that, I don't think. However, he denied that they've ever visited us. And this is where the paradox comes in. This is very much a kind of scientific method versus, well, the pseudo-scientific method or whatever we'll come to in a minute or later. The first thing, really, is the Fermi paradox, which is where we have no conclusive evidence for extraterrestrial intelligence. However, there is plenty of reasons to believe they do exist. So, where is everyone? The big question. The other thing he was influenced by, of course, as a lot of scientists are still, is this, the Drake equation. Now, it looks horrendous, but it is basically just a breakdown of the various parameters which you would need to have some kind, to get some idea of how many civilizations there are in our Milky Way with which we might be able to communicate, at least communicate, if not actually have contact, that is. Now, with that background, this is another famous quote, I think. extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So obviously the claim that aliens exist, or rather aliens have come to see us, is rather extraordinary. And of course, around the time, this is all around the time of Close Encounters of the Third Kind and all that stuff. He basically said there is no evidence that lights in the sky are due to extraterrestrial interference. And he was influenced by things like the Bermuda Triangle and also the whole thing of the idea that the pyramids are built by aliens and all this kind of thing. And he refuted this and said, no, this is ridiculous. So, again, I'm going to repeat this. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And, of course, that was quite a touchstone to his famous series, The Cosmos, which is book form as well. So if you want to go and buy that's really interesting. So, oh no, wait, no, it's not that SETI, but this is relevant because he was interested in ancient Egypt as well. So, what we mean is this SETI, of course. He was interested in all things to do with the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and of course, his contact, as has already been mentioned, was about the possibility of contact with aliens. However, no, where am I on my thing? We have this fella, here we go, who was talking about the pyramids and all these big monuments like Stonehenge and all this kind of stuff. Very difficult to build them, therefore there must have been some kind of extraterrestrial help. Sloppy thinking, says our friend. No, this is ridiculous. However, Sagan was interested in this stuff, all this ancient Egypt. So he bought the Sphinx Head tomb, which was where was it gone? Which was in New York, part of Cornell, or rather the former HQ of one of the Cornell secret societies. And it was built in the style of ancient Egyptian architecture. So let's get on to the paradox now. Now we've got all that background. The first part of it, he calculated. I have no idea how. I think his calculations are going to be quite complex anyway to put on the screen. But he calculated that these aliens would have to launch about 10,000 spaceships a year in order to have any vague chance of having an encounter with another one or with another set of beings. That's far too many to believe with the 10,000 launches. And it would take up 1% of all the matter in the universe to make these things anyway, apparently. This is thinking. This is what Sagan said. Wow. So that not people have yeah. Sorry?
I said not even SpaceX could manage 10,000 launches a year.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, okay. Obviously, all these are questioned, blah, blah, but this is what he said anyway. So the paradox, the actual paradox. Right. I better get the question is, are we unusual in space? i.e., is life that rare that there's so little of it, or is there a lot more of life out there? Is there a great deal of life out there? Well, if life is rare, then there won't be enough extraterrestrials out there. There wouldn't be these 10,000 spacecraft, whatever it is, every year. There wouldn't be even less likely they bump into each other. So that's unlikely that they've come to see us, particularly. But if it's the same number of extraterrestrials, as the sightings suggest, apparently, we would not be unique. Therefore, it would be boring. Why would anybody want to bother coming to see something that's pretty much the same as them? Therefore, aliens probably do exist. That's fairly certain. But they are certainly not, almost certainly not, have visited us. UFOs are there for something else, and Daniken, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Daniken's a nut. So this has basically caused a schism, if you like, between the scientists and the pseudoscientists.
Can I just, sorry, can I just say something about Eric von Däniken, which is relevant? He wasn't a nut. He was a grifter.
No. Yeah, that's okay.
Just out of interest, do you know where he was when he wrote this book, Chariots of the Gods?
No, go on.
He was in prison for fraud.
Oh, good grief. Right. Okay.
That's all I wanted to say. I think that says it all.
Yeah. So anyway, we've got this basically, we've got the science versus the pseudoscience. And never the twain shall meet now, I think. Pretty much a lot of it's to do with Sagan's influence in looking at these things. So there we go. There's the man himself, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much. That was most interesting. And I think we should congratulate Ian, because Ian has recently joined us on Space Oddities, and that was his first ever presentation. So well done, Ian.
Thank you.
So congratulations. That was great.
Well done, Ian.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Of course, I think we'd all agree that Sagan is right. That you know, there are almost certainly what we would call advanced civilizations somewhere out there in the universe. But you know, for reasons that Sagan pointed out, it's highly unlikely in the extreme that they have visited us. And do you know the thing that always gets me with UFOs? Not only would you have to do 10,000 launches a year, the aliens, but they would also have to produce an infinite variety of spacecraft, because every UFO sighting, it's something different, something shaped different, something that looks different. There's no consistency between UFO sighting at all. And you'd think that if just for argument's sake, if an alien civilization were visiting us, they wouldn't have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different types of spacecraft. That makes no sense whatsoever. Not to me, anyway. So that is another.
And they might not even have spacecraft. This idea of flying around in the universe in tin cans is where we are today, and how we imagine the future with Star Trek and so on. But perhaps that's not how it would. That's not how it would be for other civilizations. I'm also interested in the possibility that you could have a civilization that happened upon the Earth quite some time ago, perhaps participated in seeding the Earth with life, and at that point, it becomes a point of interest for that civilization. So you're not just starting out equal a priori, let's go find some of the trillions of planets in our visible universe. So I think that's a possibility. And we've talked about panspermia. What if there was some intention to actually see the Earth? And how would they know about the Earth? Well, we have at least 150 light year bubble around the Earth at this point for radio transmissions that would be unique to intelligent life. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's because Carl Sagan, even when he was a young lad, he always speculated, because when he was doing his how can I say, his education, going through his education, it was when the time, especially in the 60s, when UFOs became prevalent, and they were all the talk, and there was all these things about these flying saucers, these flying cigar shapes, these formations of lights flying around. And he did that. Even then, he also speculated that they could be piloted by aliens, but he did always warn, as Ian said, if you make a statement, you've got to be able to back it up, because he also worked with Stanley Kubrick on 2001, and he convinced Kubrick to not how can I say, not to present aliens, but to present aliens as a thought, as a super intelligence, infer them rather than actually say that this is proof that aliens actually exist. So, yes, he's very open to the fact that there could be life out there, but until we get the positive evidence, you've just got to be careful what you're saying and what you're doing. And it's the same because he's been involved with SETI almost from the get-go. Well, the modern SETI, let's put it that way. And he was with Frank Drake back at Greenbank Observatory with the very first radio telescope scan of the skies for radio transmissions, which was Project Uzma. And he started from there, and since then, him and Frank Drake have literally been with, well, they were the backbone of SETI. And their work in SETI was absolutely amazing. They always bounced ideas off of it. He was a great supporter, again, as like Ian said, of the Drake equation. He was really interested, of course, in the Fermi paradox, which again Ian popped up, which is where the civilizations, why don't we see them? It's because they've come and they've gone. It could be through self-destruction or just overuse of their own commodities on their own planet. So yeah, it's just a case of that as regards life out in the planets. And of course, SETIs, they're not always looking for radio signals, which is one of the most obvious ones, but now they're looking for industrial signatures in in the atmospheres of exoplanets and things like that. They've moved on to from actually looking just in the radio spectrum to other ways of actually trying to detect life. So yeah, fantastic. Thanks for that, Ian.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah.
I think Sagan was not. He certainly was open to the idea of finding extraterrestrial life.
Mm-hmm.
I think he almost desperately wanted to find it within the confines of good critical thinking.
Indeed.
And if I could just share two more Sagan quotes with you, some of my favorites. One of my very favorites is he says, "Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known."
Yes. He's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
and as we see almost every month, the universe looks different as we discover new things about it, new questions to ask, in fact. And he also said, and this isn't a direct quote, but it's pretty close. He said, "We live in a highly scientific and highly technologically advanced society where almost no one knows anything about science or technology." And he thought that was a recipe for disaster.
I've got the exact quote a little later, actually.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
Okay.
I mean, this is my list of quotes.
Yeah, it's
absolutely loads of them. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, while we were talking about UFOs, I just want to share this with you. Actually, I just need to turn my background off for a moment, and I don't know whether you can see this. This is a book called Flying Saucers and the U.S. Air Force. And it's about the official U.S. Air Force position as regards UFOs and the story of the Air Force studying UFOs. I've no idea how I ended up with this book, but I have. Dates from 1960. So it's actually quite an interesting read. So there, I just thought I'd mention that.
yeah, that's right, because the American Air Force, their study into UFOs was Blue Book.
Yes, Project Blue Book.
And Carl Sagan was one of the panelists who, when they've decided that to see if Blue Book was actually achieving anything, he was one of the panel that decided it was basically unscientific. It wasn't proving anything. They were looking for the wrong features. And so because of their recommendation, him and the other members of the panel, they turned it into more of a scientific investigation. And it was basically, as you said, back in 1960. So he would have been around, the formation of NASA everything else that was going on at that time, and SETI with Project Uzma.
Yeah, Uzma, that's right. Okay, well, we'll move on now to the last part of this evening's special, which is to look at the legacy of Carl Sagan. So let me just ask the panel, and you viewers as well, please do put this in the chat. What do you think it is Carl Sagan's legacy?
Excellent communicator. He's passed that on to people like Brian Cox and all these other people. Without Carl Sagan, I don't think there'd be any Brian Cox or any of these other people. So that's my thought.
Yeah,
anyway.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. I'll go with that, Ian.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Certainly been an influencer for so many people.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw him in 1977, his big talk at that point was on extraterrestrial life. It was basically based all around that, and I was part of that SETI at Home project for a long time, and then obviously it ended.
Are you all like me that when you read what Carl Sagan wrote and listen to what he said, he does give you a really warm feeling inside, doesn't he?
Yeah. That was part of his method. I mean, you can go on YouTube and find his speeches and the talks he gave, and as I said, there's nothing ever rushed. There's nothing.
No.
And also when he talks about religion, he had his own theories and all that, but he's respectful. He doesn't diss anybody in any way. And he just gives you an alternative view, being, basically, I mean, you've got, you're talking about a grey old man sat on a throne high up in the sky. Again, he said maybe, looking at it another way, science could be considered the same sort of omnipotent, trying to be clever with the words though, force. So he's very, very calm, and like you said, and he's just explains things so simply. And of course, one of the things we did say, we were talking about, is of course when the cosmos is around, there was no CGI.
No,
everything had to be done with animating models and things like that, and paintings, and so it was all visionary. It included all the arts as well that needed to go into it to make that series. So I really would wonder what a cosmos made today would look like with Carl Sagan. It'd be absolutely amazing. It's astonishing.
And Lee says he brought astronomy and science into the mainstream for audiences around the world, which is absolutely true.
Well done, Lee. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's have a look at just a few things. I mean, this is not, this is not an exhaustive list, because he has affected everybody who cares about science and what we are and where we live. But let's just have a look at just a few things here that I've put together, and I hope you can see this okay, as always. Okay, so the legacy of Carl Sagan. Just some factual things, prizes and awards. Well, there is first of all the Carl Sagan Prize for Science Popularization, presented by Wonderfest. And it honours a scientist who has made significant contributions to the public understanding and appreciation of science. So that's an annual award given to somebody who meets those criteria. There's the Carl Sagan Memorial Award, given jointly by the American Astronautical Society and the Planetary Society, and it recognises individuals or groups who have demonstrated leadership in research or policies advancing the exploration of the cosmos. And the National Science Foundation issues the Distinguished Public Service Award, posthumously awarded. It honours Carl Sagan's lifetime achievements in science, communication, and education. So they gave him that award posthumously. As science communication goes, we've talked about his manner of presenting science. Now, if we just go back to 1980 when Cosmos hit the screens, it was a bit of a brave gamble, in my opinion, by PBS in America, the public broadcasting service, to take this project on, to take Cosmos on. Because don't forget, to the general public, Carl Sagan was completely unknown. He'd not been on television before, not in a communication sense. I mean, they might recognize him from NASA, but as a presenter, he'd never done that before. So it was a bit of a gamble, and it took off because the program was watched by millions of people around the world. And isn't it amazing how many people remember it that you talk to, don't you think?
Yeah.
I wonder if people 50 years later will still be talking about Brian Cox's series. Somehow, I don't think so.
What about Space Oddities? Will they be talking about Space Oddities?
Of course they will, because it'll be on their screens 24 hours a day. So, very different style of presentation, though, between Sagan's type of communicating science and what we had in the UK. Because what we had in the UK was these people. Dr. Magnus Pike, the sainted Sir Patrick Moore. And who remembers the other fellow?
Mr. Bellamy.
David Bellamy.
Down in the mulch.
Yeah. Yes. Lou might not know David Bellamy. He was a TV botanist, Lou.
I don't know him. Yeah.
Yeah. He was passionate about botany. And he was great. He was a great science communicator. And so was Dr. Magnus Pike. And, of course, Patrick Moore. But all of these presenters had one thing in common in the UK. They were all a bit eccentric. Yes? They were all very, very British. So British TV tended to go for eccentric communicators of science who were really ripped apart by satirists, if you remember. The number of people that used to do impressions of all of these three on television was amazing. So British television, instead of the calm, measured tones of Carl Sagan, were going for eccentrics, because perhaps that's just a British thing. But they were all fantastic communicators. Magnus Pike, by profession, was a nutritionist, but he knew a lot about other areas of science, and he could speak most eloquently about just about anything relating to science. But of course, modern day communicators, Brian Cox, as Ian said, without Sagan, there wouldn't have been Brian Cox, or rather, there would have been a Brian Cox, because it wouldn't have stopped him being born, obviously. But his manner of presentation very much in the mold of Sagan's. Lou, have you watched the Solar System series yet?
I have. It is amazing.
You enjoyed it?
I did. I enjoyed it. It's all accurate and inspiring.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's my pleasure. And I think you'd agree, wouldn't you, Lou, that his style owes a lot to Sagan?
Yes. Well, I don't know if he's if there's a straight line there, but it's certainly very similar to Sagan's.
Yeah. Definitely. Also, of course, we have to ask the question, but where are all the other science presenters on British television? Can anybody think of any other science presenters apart from the Sky at Night team on British television?
No.
And this, to me, is a little bit worrying, because Brian Cox is an astrophysicist. But what about all the other areas of science? Do you see people making TV programs about biology or?
Actually, Brian Cox isn't an astrophysicist. He's a particle physicist.
Yes, sorry, he is. He's a particle physicist rather than astrophysicist. Yes, but we don't see TV programs about other areas of science.
This was one of the bones. This was one of the bones to pick that Sagan had with at least American culture. That if you open a newspaper, there will be some politics or other events on the first page, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth page. Science, if it is there at all, is buried in the nth page in general of the newspaper.
Yes.
And this was his thing. He said he thought we needed to be more scientifically interested and informed culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the other people I can think of who was British, but again, and as you said, he slipped into obscurity for some unknown reason, is Jim Al-Khalili.
Oh, yes, absolutely, yes.
That's true.
Yeah, he. I mean, if you see any of his lectures or talks on YouTube, then have a listen. He's very, very good. I mean, they did do a couple of television series, but as you said, it's only because you've asked this question, I've suddenly realised these people have slipped away.
Yes, indeed.
They have slipped into obscurity, and I don't know why. It's they used to be, quite often used to have.
Of course, there is
Hannah Fry, another one. Just thinking.
Yes, indeed.
Do you have any scientists on your money?
Well, I mean, the thing is, as we all know, science budgets with television companies are always restricted and very much the poor relative as far as programming goes. But I mean, Daz is right. Jim Al-Khalili is a fantastic science communicator, and his programs. The one he did about the two he did called Everything and Nothing.
Yeah, fantastic.
And the one about gravity, and he did that wonderful series about electricity as well. And I've got them all somewhere.
I was going to say, there's also, what about Dara O'Brien?
Dara O'Brien, yeah, but he doesn't really do TV science a lot, does he? I mean, I know he is a physicist by training. But I mean, let's not forget James Burke. We must talk about James Burke because he's doing another series of connections that are not on national television. He's done another series, and Connections was a series that, like Cosmos, broke new ground in science, but particularly the history of science, and forced us to look at the history of science in a completely new way. And it was brilliant, and it did run to 2 series on national television, and then he did another 2 series for other networks. But also, it makes me a little concerned once Brian Cox slips away, not literally, but when and if he stops making these series of his, which are all brilliant, who's coming up behind him? So anyway, that was just some thought.
Yeah, because I mean, you're just reiterating that quote I read at the end, that long quote about basically us not knowing anything about science or anything like that. And this is, thinking about it, it's been a pattern over the last few years where the mainstream television companies aren't producing science programs anymore.
No.
I mean, how many times have they tried to get rid of the Sky at Night?
Well, I mean, the biggest, yes, they're trying to get rid of the Sky at Night, but the biggest crime was cancelling Horizon.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say, Horizon.
60 years.
Like the programs like James Burke and Jim Al-Khalili,
Yeah.
where they actually commissioned them to make these science programs, but they don't do it anymore. So this is just sort of like, as I said, enforcing that quote, the warning that Carl was given in that quote about the science slipping away, and we'll revert back to astrology and things like that, and ignorance. But it's very concerning actually when you think about it. But
anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Of course, what we must not forget is that Cosmos has 2 sequels made by Neil deGrasse Tyson in conjunction with Anne Droyan, who's Carl Sagan's widow. And again, a bit of a gamble, but Neil deGrasse Tyson is another wonderful science communicator. And I don't know if you've watched both series of Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos, but they're very, very good indeed. And I really enjoyed them. He doesn't have the same, I don't know, gravitas, if that's exactly the right word, as Sagan, for me anyway. Another person who does a lot of science, not particularly on national television, but certainly a lot. You can't get away from him on YouTube. Is Michio Kaku. Although I'm a little wary of his methods of.
He gets involved with the whole thing I was talking about, the pseudoscience stuff as well. So
yes,
I'm a bit wary of him.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm very wary of him, and he's what he's particularly good at is publicizing himself. He's very good at self-promotion, but some of the stuff he did, not now, because I think he's realized that he's never going to get millions of views by presenting science, because people generally don't. We certainly know that. So he's sort of lowered his standards a bit, in my opinion, and gone for the pseudoscience market. And this is the sort of market we're talking about. I mean, I just did a search on YouTube for the word aliens, and these are the first two hits I got. Top military veterans break silence on UFOs. Alien agenda, planet Earth. Meet the alien that believes she's sent from outer space. Goodness gracious. There are thousands. I mean, that's from this morning in the UK, so that they should be ashamed of themselves. But there are thousands of these, literally thousands of these pseudoscience channels on YouTube. These days, a lot of them are generated completely by AI. There's nobody involved. The AI does everything, and their videos get views in the millions. So it's all gone very wrong somewhere. So can I just warn viewers, as we were saying earlier, stay away from channels like this. I'm sure you wouldn't watch channels like this, but there are thousands of them, and they outnumber the real science channels by a huge margin, and they get millions of views.
Can I say I agree with everything you're saying? I have noticed this even on programs that I would think would have some gravitas to them and some believability, such as the History Channel.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, that's.
I am shocked at some of the things that they report. It's incredible.
The History Channel started well as a history channel, but they realised to get viewers, they would go into all this pseudoscience, aliens, ancient civilization baloney. It is shocking. And the Discovery Channel as well has gone really downhill. It's all about sharks now, and it's wall-to-wall sharks. And I actually did some programming work for the Discovery Channel years ago, and they had very high standards about their programs. And of course, again, oh, we're not getting that many views. What should we do? Oh, aliens and alien pyramids and all this malarkey. It's very sad. So what I want to leave you with is this quote from Carl Sagan that Lou alluded to earlier. We have also arranged things so that almost no one understands science and technology. This is a prescription for disaster. We might get away with it for a while, but sooner or later this combustible mixture of ignorance and power is going to blow up in our faces. What do you think of that?
Yeah, very true.
I think the sooner or later is now, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, we seem to be going down that road. But like you say, it's. I mean, the mainstream television companies, they literally run away from anything scientific now. But then saying that, they do occasionally bring out the Brian Cox series and a Sky at Night, but that's been watered down, to be quite honest, quite a lot from what it used to be.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, I worked for the BBC for 11 years, and then they sent me a text. Couldn't even be bothered to tell me. Sent me a text to say, we no longer require a science program. Thank you very much for your help. And that's all I had. And that's what they said.
Yeah.
We no longer require a science program.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, sorry.
The BBC, they used to do all their science in-house. But these days, it's all farmed out to production companies, independent production companies, who, they tend not to specialize in science, so the quality is not always there. So I don't know. Anyway, that's the legacy of Sagan. And viewers, if you anything else that you think you want to say about Carl Sagan before we finish our special on Carl Sagan. We've got more stuff coming up on the show. Don't go away. Whatever you do, do not go away. Don't touch that dial. But if you would like to say anything about Carl Sagan, please do put it in the comments. Yeah, so that's it. So that's our special for today.
Can I just say a little bit about the controversial side of and not a lot of it was actually, well, a lot of it seemed to be what you would consider jealousy on the part of some of his contemporaries that he was working on. He was actually excluded from joining several associations. He was denied tenure at one of the universities he was teaching at because the other professors, they didn't appreciate the fact that, although some of them come round later in life when they saw what Carl was actually doing, but they said that him trying to be a personality, he was ignoring the science, and he was even accused on sometimes of stealing other people's ideas. But Carl stuck at it. He was dogged. This is why he moved around to several of the universities, because of opposition of what he was actually doing. But also, I mean, in later life with the SETI, the program, some of the things they did also courted controversy. Let me just put my screen back up. I hope this comes up again because I haven't stopped sharing. Now, I added a couple of little extra slides to the end of this, just as a bit of a. Can you see that?
Yep.
Right. I'm just going to. Shall I go large? Let's go large, because you need to appreciate. Oh, it's gone. So I'll have to stick with this. Can I actually work it from here? No, I can't. Oh, okay then. But what it is that. Let me just come. I'm just going to stop sharing. But it was basically the Pioneer plaque. I can't. I'll just stop sharing. The Pioneering plaque, which caused controversy amongst the feminists and also the people who are against things like nudity and anything sexual, because it included a picture of a man and a woman, both naked. And also with a man with his hand raised, and the woman stood next to him. She's a little bit shorter. And first of all, the people who were against indecency moaned about the fact that they were naked, but unfortunately, that's what we look like when we haven't got clothes on. And they also said that the man being taller and also having his arm raised was sexist, was misogynistic, because it animated him, where the woman was stood placid, so there was that sort of controversy again with the Voyager, both the plaque, the disc, the Voyager, and the Arecibo message. There was people who, especially other astronomers, who were actually against us advertising ourselves in space. Should we be telling advanced civilizations where we are? What will their reaction be? Will they come and will they be friendly, or will they come and rip all our ores, got metals, golds, and everything else like that away from us? So there's always been that controversy, but it's always been. People always seem to remember those sort of things rather than actually what Carl Sagan actually stood for.
Yeah.
And it's silly little things like that. And going back to the television thing, I mean, we've probably all seen it. Everything now has to be things like Big Brother, Love Island, and things like that, where there's lots of drama going on. But we do get occasionally some drama in astronomy. Because with one of the best things I saw was a YouTube live broadcast from Brazil, and no, sorry, Chile, from a university in Chile, and the guest speaker was Avi Loeb. Now, Avi Loeb's a renowned scientist. but he's very big on the UFO and alien side of it. And he thought Oumuamua was an alien probe and things like that. And he did start to get some, comments made by other astronomers about what you're saying is, pseudoscience. There's no proof of what you're saying. There's this, that, and the other. And he got very aerated about it. Now on this on this actual talk, there was Jill Tarter. Of course, she's well known from SETI. Contacts actually dedicated to her, and other scientists, and they were sort of like talking about him, but he wouldn't listen to them, and he became very animated and very forceful. And Jill Carter actually was talking about him and agreeing with some of the things he said, but don't disagree. And he really went off on one. And it was really strange to see, because you don't normally see this happening in the local astronomical society, Dobsonians at dawn and all that. But maybe we need a bit more serious controversy to actually draw people in.
Yeah, maybe. But it's a fine line. It's a fine line between controversy and nonsense, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean,
okay, we need to move on now. So we're going to move on now. So thank you for our watching our Carl Sagan special.
Yeah,
if there's another astronomy personage who you would like to see us do a special about, then let us know, or anything in astronomy in general. We'd love your feedback. So if there's anything that you think would make a good special on Space Oddities, tell us about it. You can contact us at info@spaceoddities.space, which is our email address for anything, basically. General email address, info@spaceoddities.space. Send us an email and tell us what you would like to see on Space Oddities. We are always looking for ideas, and we appreciate your feedback. So tell us if there's anything you would like us to cover. So anyway, we're going to move on now to Captain Pirate. Yes, it's Roger. He's back for another week. And his wonderful look at the night sky, what's coming up, and the viewers gallery for this week. And I think who was asking? Was it Kenneth? I can't remember. Somebody in the chat was asking, is Daz going to... yes, it was. I think it was Kenneth. I was asking about Daz's solar data. Daz is going to do the solar data for this week, which I don't think is a lot, after Roger's fantastic presentation. So, Roger, over to you.
Oh, talked about being hyped up. Okay, so here we go for the week in the night sky. And where is it? Ooh. Right, so here we are for the 12th of November. And we're coming up to a full moon on Friday. And it's known in the United States as the Beaver Moon, and it's also being hyped up as a super moon.
Oh no!
I know.
Please save us from super.
But we'll move swiftly on from that. So this is the moon earlier this evening before I came onto the show. So things are getting rather large in the sky.
That is nice. Very detailed, that one.
I know. I've had lots of practice. As somebody on the panel says, it's just the moon. It's the same every bloody month.
It bloody is. I've observed the moon for the past 55 years, and it's never bloody changed.
I keep telling you, it's getting smaller.
A few things landed on it, and a few more craters. But there we are.
And it's getting smaller.
Anyway, so we have through this coming week at midnight, we've still got Saturn above the horizon, although it is getting quite close to setting now at midnight. We've got the moon coming through, and we've still got Andromeda with the galaxy up high in the sky, and we've also now got a lot of the winter constellations up, and very nicely they are appreciated to be seen again. So obviously we've got Uranus and Jupiter coming through Taurus. Mars is now progressing on through into Cancer. So all things being good there. And of course, through the week, we've also got, during the setting of the sun, we've also got Mercury and Venus. I did spot Venus this evening, and it was looking rather awesome, although it is still quite low at present, but it was quite apparent when the skies are clear. So beware out towards the southwest horizon for a big, bright, shiny star, and that is the lovely Venus. It will progressively get higher as it gets towards December, so all well and good with that. So there we go for the planets. We still do have comet Sun Atlas, although it is fading rapidly now, heading towards Aquila. It's currently heading towards magnitude 8 and will be up to magnitude 10 by the middle part of December. So all in effect, all well and is done now with that one. So we'll just have to wait and see for anything else which might appear and survive an orbit around the sun. But we do have a nice, fabulous gallery of images from our usual contributors. And the first one is from Gerard of a full moon with this sea star on the 20th. So nice full moon there, which we will also be seeing
Very
later
nice.
in the week. Very well done.
Yes.
Nicely detailed. And we've got another one from Michael Murphy, who's been down in Australia. And he's done some images of the night sky with 10 1-minute exposures with his Canon camera and lenses. And here's part of the Australian Milky Way there.
Wow.
Looks a lot like the U.S. Milky Way. How strange.
Isn't that strange?
Oh, yeah. Well,
We appear to have another voice on the sound in the background. So if anybody's got something they want to, can they please mute their microphone?
right. So we have another one from Jerry DeLay of Millet 15 in the Heart Nebula. And he's produced this image here.
Oh, look
that's lovely.
Right in the center. Yes.
Oh,
Well done.
Wow.
Got some details there. Well done.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Very jealous.
Dozy.
God.
Okay. Right. And then we've got some from Pete. This is a process perseverance image that was sent from yesterday. So how local is that? And that just gives you an interesting idea of some of the rocky formations that it's currently experiencing as of yesterday.
Is that the outcrop that Captain Kirk fought the lizard man on?
I was just thinking.
It is.
Guys, as you know, this is a Star Trek free zone, so please obey the rules.
All right, then it's the wall at the bottom of my garden.
Oh,
Roy Stonewall fallen apart.
Okay. Well done. Right. So Pete has also managed to get with his 36-inch reflector, as you do, with a very brief 1-minute exposure in red, V and B. So instead of so it's red, violet, and blue.
Visual, it's called.
Oh right. Okay.
It's the equivalent. It's the equivalent of green.
Oh right. Okay. And this is what you get with 3 minutes of exposure.
Oh, that's lovely.
Nice.
Mm. Wasn't that the image that was on the cover of Cosmos book?
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, so another link back to Sagan.
Perhaps Pete had taken that one for him.
Yeah.
Right, and here we have the Dunbar Nebula, M27 with the 36-inch reflector. also with the same amount of total integration time.
Oh, wow.
Look at the colours in that.
That's lovely.
It's beautiful.
Thousands of stars there.
Let us count them.
Okay.
God, it's
Good luck with that. Well.
Fantastic. Well done, Pete.
Oh, and here's one from Lou.
Wow.
And his first image of Jupiter with a 5-inch Explorer scientific refractor.
Oh,
wow.
And he's got the red spot there.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well done, Lou.
Nice one.
Almost pioneer quality, I'd say.
Almost. Yeah.
Almost getting there. Very good. Well done.
Yeah, I hear the scientists are now investigating those zigzags on the limb of Jupiter.
Right. And after a brief lull, we've got an image back from Lee. And this
Welcome back, Lee. We've missed your images, mate.
from Cornwall. So one of his images that he was away at of the Orion and Gemini rising over a shepherd's hut.
Oh, that's
Okay.
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That is
I
lovely.
do love these starscapes.
Yes.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Lee has got a certain knack to get these. Obviously, because we are in Cornwall, we've got the palm trees in the background.
Yeah.
Is that an
Yeah.
observatory?
No, it's a shepherd's hut.
Oh, it would be a great observatory.
Oh, you could adapt it as such. Yes,
Yeah.
it's big enough.
Yeah, indeed. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
And here's one from Ian of Moon in the Clouds. I presume this might be a phone picture, possibly. I'm not sure. I didn't have any.
He did call it flaming clouds.
Yeah.
So you can make of that what you want.
Yes. The novelty of almost seeing something in a clearless sky.
Yes, indeed.
Well done. And here's a couple of images that I took of last night of Saturn and Io with Jupiter with my little Mac. They're not too bad, but the seeing wasn't great because it did get quite cloudy.
What did you take that with, Roger?
That's with my 180mm Skywatcher SkyMax Maxitoff.
Okay, very nice.
But this was only captured using SharpCap, and then it was stacked in SharpCap. So there was no video files to process in AutoStacker and Registax. It was just stacked, and that's how it came straight out from SharpCap. So I was quite impressed with that.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, I just need a bigger telescope to get the resolution a lot more clearly. So I might have to get my C11 out for that. But this was the min that I did last night with the same telescope, and this is a 12-panel mosaic.
Wow.
Nice.
Look at that.
Look at that.
And it's got a lot of detail in there. You sort of have to zoom in and zoom in and zoom in and see more and more and more. But yeah, it worked out quite well. I did get a lot of comments on how detailed that was. So if it's still clear out afterwards from tonight, I might have another go at it. But that was just using stacking software in SharpCap and then stitch them all together. So having all these video files on your hard drive taking up gigabytes of hard space is all done and dusted now.
Yeah.
Technology moves on.
Indeed.
And that's what we have for tonight.
Fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much, Roger. That's really, really lovely. Thank you so much for your lovely images, viewers, as always. And just another reminder, please send your images to gallery@spaceoddities.space, and one image per email, please. And that's it. Thank you. You don't have to put the word gallery in the title anymore. You can if you want to, but you can send us your images. Don't forget, viewers, we're not after, we're not specifically after images taken with expensive equipment. It could be a phone, as we've seen. Anything you think you would like to share with us that you think looks nice, love to see it. So send it to gallery@spaceoddities.space, and we'll look forward to receiving them. I hope I've set the system up to generate an automatic acknowledgement email to you. And if you don't get an email back saying it's been received, let us know at info.spaceoddities.space, and I will look into it. But as far as I can see, it should work. You should at least get an acknowledgement, because we do want to acknowledge that you've actually taken the trouble to send us the images. So there we are. Okay, right. Lastly, tonight, we move on to Daz, who's going to tell us what's going on at the sun at the moment. I gather
if you just bear with me.
Yeah, certainly we'll bear with you.
Because I've got to.
Perhaps while you're doing that, Lou's going to be talking to us next week about some cosmological things. Lou, what are you going to be talking to us about?
Well, I'm going to kind of walk y'all. We'll maybe do it in a few segments, but I'll walk y'all through the kind of progression of understanding of the size and breadth and behavior of the universe up to our current knowledge, with as many answers as there are questions, or many questions as there are answers.
Fantastic. Well, we'll look forward to that, because obviously it's a fascinating subject. And, it's the old adage, isn't it? The more we know about the universe, the more questions we have. But it is nonetheless said that our knowledge of the universe is doubling every 10 years, and that pace is accelerating. And I have a feeling with the new generation of telescopes that we're going to see coming online within the next few years, that pace is going to accelerate enormously, especially now artificial intelligence is being used a lot in astronomy to analyze data and to do things that for humans would take a long time. And AI is, showing great promise in astronomy. So I think in a couple of weeks, we'll do a bit of a special about artificial intelligence and astronomy to let you know what's going on and what the potential is for AI.
I want to include quantum computing in that as well.
Absolutely, we will. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we'll do a thing about AI and astronomy, which includes quantum computing, in a couple of weeks. So I hope you look forward to that. Daz, are you sorted, mate?
Yeah, I'm just going to start sharing. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can.
There we go.
You can see my cursor, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay then. So I'm going to rush through this because I know we're getting on and people are waiting for their Horlicks. So what we're going to do is here, this is how we left the sun last week. There was quite a few sunspots on the active regions on there, and the sunspot number was quite high. But what we were waiting for is some of the bigger spots, which you'll see on the right-hand side, which is today's sun. And the main player this week has been 3889, AR 3889. You can see it there in the southern hemisphere, just to the left of center. You can see it there. It's all marked up. So as I said, things are calming down. You can see the sun. There are some other regions on here, but of course, if they're small, they won't number them. They have got numbers, but they won't label them on the actual thing itself. So here's the synoptic diagram, and as I said, this shows everything that we can measure on the sun in one diagram, rather than us having to peel through all the different layers of which you'll see in a minute of wavelengths to see these things. Now, one thing you will notice is look at those coronal holes, and trust me, that's not all of them. In a second, you will see a video showing all the coronal holes that have been registered on the sun's surface. So as you can see, you've got 88, 89, 90, 92. Where's 91? And what's happening is these sunspots at the moment are these coronal holes. And as you notice, they're becoming long and elongated. Now, this is something we expect around about when we're in sort of like the peak of the actual cycle. It's something that happens once they start becoming elongated. But look at the size of them. And as I said, this is not all of them. So as I said, you can see on here all the other things. You can see 3899 towards the center there, and they're expecting from 3889 a 25% chance of there's going to be X flares. And with these coronal holes on here, and the ones that you can't actually see on here, that will be, if anything kicks off big time, things are quietened just for the last couple of 24 hours or so. But if something kicks off big time because it's got a high magnetic complexity, as you'll see in a minute, then that will be blown towards us, and we could get something towards the end of the week. But so keep your fingers crossed, and hopefully we may be. Well, I would say we'll probably get a solar storm, but unfortunately, as you saw with Roger, we are heading towards a full moon. So just be warned, you'll be battling a moon if you want to go aurora watching. So let me just move on. Now here I say about the coronal holes. Now look at them. There's small ones, there's big ones. They're extending. Some are disappearing. Some are appearing from nowhere. And these are all blowing enhanced winds at us, faster winds. There's more radiation wrapped up in this wind. They're faster, and so. Of course, if anything goes off in the middle now, we will get a solar storm come towards us. See that they're appearing. They're just appearing. Now, this one, I would like you to do, and I'll show it again in a bit more detail, is watch this filament here that's just coming on. Just follow it around. This is, I think this one's 3889, or it might not be now. But you'll watch all of a sudden this will lift off, and watch all this area around here. Here it goes. The whole thing actually lifts off. Now I haven't seen any details of that and whether or not it's actually created a CME that's actually coming towards us. Here's the usual yellow sun where you can see the connectivity of the magnetism. You can see all these things boiling away, firing off, all these lines breaking and reconnecting as flares go off. But we've had quite a busy flare week, but it's been intermittent. There goes that filament again. But it's been intermittent. We've got loads of M-class flares, lots of Cs. But nothing really to write home about. There was an X-class flare at the beginning of the week, but that missed us totally. So here we have the coronagraph. You can see all these things firing off. They've been having some trouble with this. It keeps stuttering and stopping and starting, but you can see the expulsions of material as these things are happening. So that's the usual things. So as I said, but the main player at the moment is actually going to be the coronal holes. And there is, I did understand, we were talking about it earlier, there is a warning for possible auroras. But as I said, we've got a very bright moon to contend with, if not clouds. And it's supposed to hit us tomorrow. So just be warned, just listen to your alerts. How big it's going to be, I really don't know. But they are being pushed by this very strong solar wind. So next. This is the blue sun, and of course this shows us all the flares. You can see it's just going bang, 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 all different varieties, M-class and lots of C-class flares. But what we're looking at is what's coming around on the far side. And there is, I'll just tell you about a slight problem we've got at the moment in regards to our observations of the far side of the sun. So here we go. We're just coming to the end. No, we're not. We're 3 days off. So yeah, you can also see the dark areas. Again, these are the coronal holes. As they come more center, then that they become more obvious. We may see this filament. No, I think we just missed it. But you can see this filament. Here it goes there, just there now. Actually fire off, or just lift off. But if you go back and you look at this, just before that lifts off, because this all happened today. This was early today, late last night and early today. If you look, 889 fired off a flare. Well, not a very big flare, but it seemed to kick off this whole region actually lifting off. And also, if you look back again, watch it a couple of times. Look to the the left hand side, the west thing, and you'll also see stuff lift off there. So here we are again. Now this is again just showing this this area here. You can see it's all these filaments. You can see how big they are, and all of a sudden, whoosh! There it goes, and you can see that kick off on the western, just off the western limb there. So that was a big lift off there, and just to give you an idea of how big this filament was, there it is. There it comes all the way down. It snakes all here, through here, and it's coming all along here. And there's the Earth. Look how small it is compared to that one filament. And look how small it is compared to those active regions. So, yeah, it just gives you some sort of like appreciation of how big these things actually are. So this is last week, KP indexes. We did reach a G2, a bit of a surprise, but that didn't mean anything for most of us in the UK. Maybe up in the Shetlands, maybe you may have seen something. But you can see we've been having this little air region here, all bubbling along, all just along here, giving us an active atmosphere, and then it kicked off up to a G2, but it didn't give us anything to write home about. So here again, this is the sunspots we have on here at the moment that they've labelled, and as I said, 3889 is the one that we're looking at. It is declining, but that doesn't mean it won't kick off. Now, as I said, so just be aware that something can kick off at any time. So what I'm going to do, just move on one more. Now, this is the far side of the sun. Now, it looks fairly blank. The reason being, there is, now again, remember, this was 11 o'clock yesterday at 12 o'clock UTC. There is a spot just literally on the, if you look on the right hand side, what's in orange is on the far side of the sun, what's grey is on the sun's face. The eastern limb, which is where sorry, have I got this right? Yeah, anyway, this is stuff that's just going to come on, because this whole orange thing will slowly move this way. So whatever this is what's going to disappear. So this is the western limb. All this will disappear onto the far side, and this is what's coming onto the near side. There is one blob coming on here. Now these, what the problem is, we don't have any probes at the moment on the far side of the sun monitoring what's going on. So they're using what's happened in the last couple of weeks or so, what they can see, and they're predicting basically what they think is going on. And you can see there are some dark regions, so we may be getting something coming towards us soon. So basically, just keep an ear out for your aurora alerts in case something does kick off. The sun is at the moment fairly mild. It's just kicking along. It's just it's on tick over. So we're still looking to see what the sunspots are. So there we go. Okay.
Thank you very much, Daz. That's wonderful. Okay, so not an active period for the sun at the moment, but that will change.
That can change at any time, yeah.
Change at any time, and almost certainly will. Yeah. So there we are. Thank you for your suggestions about what you might like to see on the show. So, somebody, oh God, now who was it? I want to give you credit for this. Somebody has suggested doing a special on Colin Pillinger, which I think would be quite interesting. Colin Pillinger, you may remember, was behind the attempted mission to Mars to put a British lander on the surface of Mars.
Beagle 2.
Beagle 2, indeed, which unfortunately failed.
Yeah.
But Colin Pillinger was a really interesting character and struggled a lot to get the British government to chip in for the project to put a British lander on Mars, piggybacking on another spacecraft. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because we'd like to sing the praises of British heroes who people might not know about.
It was Derek Abbott that said that.
Derek, thank you, Derek. Of course it was Derek. Yeah, thank you, Derek. Having a senior moment, sorry. It happens. So, yes, Derek, thank you for that suggestion. Kenneth has also suggested we do an astro processing course for images. I'm looking at you, Roger, and he suggested some targets that he's having trouble processing: the Veil Nebula, the North American, the Heart, and so on. So if you know anything about, if you can help Kenneth out, and everybody, of course, it might be nice to do some astro processing things. We did do some with John Press a few weeks ago, but we weren't really able to do it to the full extent because he was having technical trouble. So yes, Kenneth, we will definitely get onto that because we've been saying, you know, forever that we want to do more practical astronomy on the show. So we will take that under advisement, as they say. Okay, well, we'll bring things to a close this evening, viewers. Thank you so much for sticking with us for this long. You deserve a medal, all of you. Thank you so much for your contributions. If you would like to support Space Oddities, as I said earlier, you can buy us a coffee. That's one way of doing it, and I will just briefly put the code up for that. So you can scan the QR code. Again, apologies, there's no link in the chat. That's still a technical issue that's being investigated. And you can buy us a coffee, and we're always on the lookout for more caffeine. And you can probably tell, because Roger was literally falling asleep earlier. And Michael definitely did fall asleep during a live stream. So Michael definitely needs to.
I hold the prize for that one, don't I?
Yes, you do. You do. And it was a space launch as well, which was really
and it was during the afternoon as well.
Yeah, and it was a space launch as well, which is exciting stuff. And Michael managed to fall asleep in the middle of it.
Yeah, he needs a nitrogen patch.
Yeah,
yeah. How do you like us, people? Like, subscribe, and all that stuff.
Absolutely. Like and subscribe. Please do remember to like and subscribe, as always, because it really helps us. If you like, subscribe, and leave a comment on the video on YouTube, because that's something that YouTube looks at the number of likes and the number of comments on videos to decide whether to recommend it to other people. Because if nobody likes and comments, YouTube says, well, nobody's going to watch that. So we need as many likes and comments as we can possibly get to broaden the size of our audience. And there we are. You can also support us by clicking the super chat $ icon under the chat window, where you can make a donation to us directly. And we accept all donations, no matter how massive. So we'd love you to support us if you can. All of the money you give us goes towards keeping Space Oddities active and working, and you know, any contributions. I know it's tough times for everybody at the moment, but any contributions would be gratefully appreciated. And thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Kenneth. Thank you, Lee. Glad you've enjoyed it. We will be back, not next Tuesday. Well, we will be back next Tuesday, but we will be back before next Tuesday. On Monday is the 6th test flight of the SpaceX Starship, and we will be covering that live. And I believe that's about 10 p.m. British time, if I remember right.
Yeah, for us.
Yeah, that's about right.
It's an evening launch. The idea is so it lands in the Indian Ocean during the daylight, so they can get some better imaging of the state of the Starship as it splashes down.
Yeah. So
and there's lots of changes as well, so keep an eye on.
Yes, we'll talk about those before the actual event on Monday. Yeah, a night launch of the Falcon Super Heavy booster is going to be absolutely epic. So you don't want to miss that. So we will go live at 9:45 p.m. on Monday here on Space Oddities. Hope you can join us for that, because it promises to be a really exciting flight. And as Daz said, the first time that we're going to see footage coming from Starship in daylight, and lots of changes, but we'll discuss all that. So 10 p.m. If there are any changes to SpaceX's projected time for the launch, then obviously we will notify you in the Facebook group. Do keep an eye on the Facebook group, because we notify you of exactly what's going on. All right then, enough of me blathering. Thank you so much for being here this evening, viewers. So from all of us at Space Oddities, have a great week. Take care of yourselves. Be good. If you can't be good, be average. And so it's good night from me and Roger and Daz and Ian and Michael. Lou had to leave us prematurely, unfortunately, but he'll be talking about some cosmological issues next week. So from all of us at Space Oddities, thank you so much.